This is Smoke Between Worlds, Episode 4, Part 2. Minjae has learned the truth about Celia. What he's discovered changes everything about how he sees her and the danger that surrounds her. From this point on, his focus is no longer on questions or doubts. His only goal is to keep Celia safe, no matter the cost. As we enter... With the weight of all he's heard, Minjae moved with a carefulness so delicate as to not to disturb the mountain of pain he felt piled up inside of his diaphragm. But with the view of the Han River at that moment, it was breathtaking, real, grounding. Minjae led Celia through a quiet stretch of the Han River Park. Not the crowded park areas, but the hidden paths people passed by without noticing. Tall reeds swayed in the breeze, brushing gently against one another. Sunlight shimmered across the water in soft ripples. A small stone bridge arched overhead, half covered with wild ivy. It was beautiful, almost unreal. Celia paused, taking it all in. "You brought me here?" Minjae didn't answer right away. He was looking at her, really looking. Even his touch was different today. Steadier, lingering. Whenever she shifted, he reached for her hand. Whenever she paused, he moved closer. He walked a half a step behind her, as if guarding her from even the wind itself. When she stepped onto the bridge, he rested a hand gently at her waist, subtle but protective. Celia felt the warmth rising in her cheeks. "You're awfully quiet," she said. "What's wrong?" He exhaled softly, eyes drifting toward the water. When he finally spoke, it was in Korean, slower, deeper, like he needed precision. He began.
너 때문에 내 삶이 너무 달라졌어.
"Because of you, my life has become so different," he said. Celia blinked, caught off guard by the emotion in his voice. He continued, still in Korean, voice trembling, just enough to reveal the truth.
네가 오는 바람에 숨 쉬는 게 달라졌어.
"I don't know if I can go back to the life I had without you." Then, switching back to English, she noticed how he clung to the safety of his native tongue when the moment seemed to touch a part of him he held sacred. She also noticed the pity he took when he switched back to English, as if he wanted to make sure she understood the moment. Then he continued. "Before you came, I was empty. I woke up, worked, ate, slept, every day the same. No joy, no meaning." Celia's breath caught. Minjae turned to her fully, leaning one hand against the railing beside her, their faces only inches apart. His voice dropped lower, deeper. "Minjae, what are you trying to say?" He inhaled shakily, and in Korean.
너 없던 삶으로 다시 돌아갈 수 있을지 모르겠어.
"Since you arrived, even breathing, every step, all of it feels different." The intensity in his eyes made his chest tighten. Then, he began to open up the deepest parts of himself. She stood still as she took it all in. Minjae looked out over the river, gathering his courage. "I never told you about my father. Not the part that mattered." Celia's heart softened. "When he died, I cried even when my mother wasn't looking. I cried every night." Then his tone changed again. She began to study his pattern intensely, how he switched to Korean when his feelings became too big. She wondered if he knew he was doing it. She listened intently, even watching how he breathed when he touched the softest parts of himself. She instantly felt flattered that he would share something so beautiful with her. He continued.
어린 나는 세상에서 제일 외로웠어.
"As a child, I was the loneliest boy in the world," he said. He swallowed, continuing. "The only comfort I had was when I slept." He looked at her carefully. "I used to dream of a girl, Celia's breath froze. My princess. He laughed softly, almost embarrassed. She was reckless, clumsy. I always had to keep her out of danger. But she was the most beautiful thing to me. Exciting, warm. His voice softened to something heartbreaking. Then, in Korean,
그 꿈이 내가 사랑받는 유일한 곳이었어.
those dreams were the only place I felt loved, he said. Celia's eyes glossed with tears. When you came here, now I see Korea differently. The same streets I used to walk my whole life looked new. He turned toward her, eyes glistening.
너 때문에 매일이 경이로워.
Because of you, every day feels like a miracle. Celia couldn't speak. Her throat locked. Her heart pounded into her ribs. Minjae reached for her hand, his thumb brushing slowly across her palm. And then he intertwined his fingers into hers. Celia, please. He stepped closer until they were nearly chest to chest. Stay with me. Even if it's short, even if it's just for these days. Let me enjoy every moment I get with you. He kissed the back of her hand, slow, reverent, then pressed her hand against his chest, over his heart. Celia breaks, truth finally spilling out of her. Minjae, I don't want you to be hurt. I don't want you to carry the heartbreak because of me. Her voice cracked. When I cast that spell, I knew that there was a chance I wouldn't be able to save him. She swallowed hard. I know that I have to cast it the day before he disappears. But every day I stay here, every day I feel like it's like I belong in a family. Her breath trembled. Like the one you had with your parents. I feel selfish. I want to be selfish. Her voice shook violently. I can't bring myself to cast it. It makes me feel like I'm planning to lose him. Like I'm choosing failure before I even try. Minjae's eyes widened, understanding her completely. She continued, almost closer to a whisper this time. Magic is belief. That's really the basis of how it works. Full and holy. And if I can believe I can save him, I should be able to, right? She looks up at him. But he knew it wasn't a question. Minjae slowly lifted her chin. Then, in the softest Korean he ever spoke,
알겠어, 셀라.
I understand, Celia, he said. He held her hand tighter. Still in Korean, he said,
그렇다면 나는 너에게 묶일게.
Then through my belief, I will bind you to myself. He leaned in, forehead gently touching hers.
그리고 마음이 부서져도 괜찮아.
And even if my heart breaks, I'll accept it. His breath trembled.
너라면 나는 기꺼이 감당할게.
If it's you, I'll bear it willingly. Celia's lips parted, but no sound came out. He was too close, too sincere, too much. The warmth of his chest against the back of her hand, the curl of his hair brushing his brow, the depth of his dark brown eyes. She could drown in it, every inch of it. Meanwhile, back at Henri's shop, the back room of Henri's shop smelled of sandalwood and fresh herbs, the air warm and dim from the small stove burning in the corner. Rosalie sat closest to it, hands folded tightly in her lap. Thomas stood just off to the corner, facing her, arms crossed, not defensive, but bracing himself. Henri slid the wooden door shut with a soft click and turned toward them, her expression earnest and alive with purpose. I needed to see both of you. There have been some developments. Thomas tensed immediately. Is it Celia? Is she all right? He said. Hanrei lifted a calming hand. She's safe for now. But this isn't about Celia. This is about Minjae and his mother. Rosalie exchanged a look with Thomas, uncertain. Hanrei began pacing slowly, small steps, her mind racing far ahead of her body. She began, I thought we would need weeks to prepare. I thought she would resist the calling. But last night, she paused, breath catching with awe. She didn't have to call to Minjae's mother, she told me, because Minjae's mother was already there. Rosalie's eyes widened. So what does that mean? Rosalie said. Hanrei leaned forward, lowering her voice. It means she's willing to give her blessing, willing to bind herself to the child she left behind, willing to help save your daughter. Thomas slowly sat down, absorbing the weight of it. I gave Minjae my blessing today, he said. He deserved to know how I felt about him. Hanrei nodded, deeply pleased. Good. That's what we needed. Thomas frowned. But how do we get a verbal blessing from someone who's been dead for years? Hanrei smiled softly, not mocking, but filled with old knowledge. A body is only one way to speak, Thomas. A blessing does not need vocal cords. A blessing needs intent, presence, willingness. She placed her hand over her heart. Your daughter is one of the few who can perceive that kind of communication. She called to Minjae's mother, and the spirit answered before she could even finish the call. Rosalie's hand flew to her mouth, overwhelmed. So, this means we could really do it? Rosalie said. Yes. She exhaled with relief. Everything is pointing to yes. The ceremony for the two of you is set, the renewal, the binding. Once we perform it, your love, your bond, everything you've built together. Her voice softened. It will anchor itself more deeply than ever. Thomas' shoulders finally relaxed, the first real sign of relief he's felt in days. Hanrei reached beneath her robe and pulled out the small velvet pouch. The lockets. Now for the rest. She turned to Thomas first. Minjae is wearing the locket we gave Celia. Now you must wear the locket I gave Minjae. Thomas took it, a plain gold pendant warm in his palm. Don't ever take it off. Not until this is finished. Thomas nodded solemnly, slipping it over his head. Hanrei turned to Rosalie and pulled out another item, an older, slightly worn locket with gentle curves around the edges. Rosalie recognized the energy immediately. This is... Hanrei nodded. Yes. This is the locket Minjae's mother gave to him when he was a little boy. Rosalie pressed her hand against her chest, touched. You must wear it now. Rosalie lifted her hair and slipped a chain around her neck. Hanrei stepped back, studying both of them. Now, we're set. Silence filled the room, thick, expectant. I must say this, Hanrei began. Performing a secondary binding spell without Celia's permission is risky. Magic without permission is unreliable, but it's our only hope for her safety. Hopefully, it will buy us the time we need to figure out how to facilitate the last steps of the plan. But if there was ever a moment fate leaned in our favor, it's now. She exhaled, shoulders relaxing for the first time. If his mother in spirit is already present, if she's watching us, willing, offering her energy, then
This just might be enough to keep Celia alive long enough for the time spell. She looked at both her parents with quiet, fierce conviction. Hanrei stepped back and took a look at both Thomas and Rosalie, the lockets in place, and the air shifting with quiet magic, her voice lowered, solemn, and full of purpose. Our goal now isn't to send Celia back. Honestly, I don't think that was ever my goal. I think you know that. She shook her head. Honestly, that would kill her. She drew in a slow breath. We're anchoring her here in 1995 so she can live a happy life filled with love, the love her heart has always cried for. Thomas and Rosalie stared at her, hope mixing with fear. Hanrei continued, now with a fierceness that came from decades of study. If this works, she will remain in this time safely. But it's difficult. But I know that she will not be dragged back. She will not die in the transfer, and we can keep her here if she so chooses it. Now, but in order to remain here permanently and for things to reset and adjust in the future according to the past events change, well, that's another story entirely. She must complete the process of surrendering to Minjae on her own. That I absolutely cannot fabricate. The list is quite extensive for what we must do, but in order to get the time love spell to work, we've got to work quickly and efficiently. Step 1 is already completed with Thomas's blessing. Step 2 is Minjae's mother's blessing. Step 3 is them saying, I love you, and beating it, of course. And then the hard part begins as Celia accepts her locket from Minjae. It all has to be done at a certain time, and a certain binding herbs must be present, which I nearly have all of them. The hardest one to obtain is the time herb. It must be picked at a specific time and a specific way, and in a specific place at the 4 corners of Korea, north, south, east, and west, of where the lockets were activated, which will be during the binding ceremony. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just focus on the task at hand, binding your love, so that you two can be together again in these forms. And more importantly, it won't take 100 years after your death, Rosalie, for you to meet again. Rosalie's hand trembled over the locket. Hanrei gave another small nod. And yes, with enough strength and energy, enough connection, we can keep Celia with Minjae safely.
Thomas closed his eyes in relief. Hanrei clasped her hands together as the air shifted around them. We will get your daughter out of danger, she said. Her voice grew steadier. We will give her the time she needs. A pause, soft, determined. And then we will help her stay here, where her heart is already. Later that evening, the house was full for the first time in days. Laughter moved through the rooms like warm air. Plates clinked. Rosalie fussed over the rice. Thomas kept trying to fill Minjae's bowl. Celia kept shooing them both away with a smile she couldn't hide. Everything looked normal, carefree, whole, a family. Hanrei sat at the corner of the table with her teacup in her hand, warm in her palms, watching the scene unfold with a softness that rarely touched her face. There was something about the blend of voices, the layer of comfort that she felt in it, that brought a kind of peace even she didn't expect. For a moment, the world felt right again. Rosalie laughed at something Minjae said. Thomas clapped a hand at the young man's back. Celia shook her head in mock embarrassment, as for the first time, she was calm and at peace. She reached for another dumpling, and Hanare felt herself smile, not out of politeness, not as the wise old woman everyone assumed her to be, but from genuine, swelling satisfaction. This is what her soul worked for, what it had always worked for: love, connection, reunion. Her fingertips brushed the ancient locket that hung near her throat, absorbing the faint thrum of energy inside it. 3 lockets now, all in place. 3 threads woven from realms that rarely touched. Magic swarmed the air. It was powerful, dangerous, and more promising than anything she's ever attempted. Love. Love so strong that it could be bound together with time travel. Amazing, she thought to herself. She had to be honest with herself. She's never done anything like this before. Not near to the type of complexity that she was dealing with. Time travel. A realm few have ever crossed. It flattered her that she was even a part of something so sacred. Hanrei lifted her gaze, watching Celia and Minjae exchange an unspoken look. Shy, warm, terrified, hopeful. Right there in front of her eyes, a connection centuries older than both of them had settled into place like a star returning to its orbit. A gentle breath left her. She had spent decades, lifetimes, binding twin flames. Sometimes she succeeded. Sometimes she failed. Sometimes the world was too cold, too tired, too distracted to let love grow. Love had thinned on the earth. She knew it, cooled like the glaciers melting under a slow warmth, leaving only fragments behind. She had watched humanity dim, as well as her own essence fade, her purpose fading as the constant hum of their greed, their fear, their loneliness had taken more shape. Her own energy dwindling as she felt the world's energy fall with it. But here at this rare moment, she felt rare heat. Here was a bond still capable of glowing. Hanrei felt something she hadn't felt in years. Stamina. A small renewal inside her. Like for the first time, an old spark being relit. Her eyes drifted to her corner cabinet, locked tight, where she kept her private collection. Lockets gathered over decades, each containing a memory of love once tended, once awakened. She would need them. One day soon, she would break them open, draw their energy back into her bones, and shed her aged body like an old coat. And when that day came, she would meet her true love again. Not as the woman she is now, frail, tired, fading, but in the form he remembered, the one he had held, the one she had lost too soon. That thought filled her chest with a quiet, aching joy. This binding, Celia, Minjae, Rosalie, Thomas, and a mother reaching across the veil. It was a major step, one of the biggest she had ever taken. And now, as she watched the family she was about to protect share dinner like it was nothing more than a pleasant evening, Hanrei knew, tonight, she would change her fate and theirs forever. The clock had entered into the hours of renewal. It was time for the ceremony. The candles flickered calmly, casting a soft gold light over Rosalie and Thomas as they stood hand in hand at the center of the garden. Hanrei's voice moved like a warm current through the air, steady, confident, ancient. Celia watched from the edge of the flowered circle, her pulse quick and steady. Minjae stood beside her, close enough that their sleeves brushed when either of them breathed too deeply. He didn't look at the candles. He didn't look at the herbs burning in the bowls. He kept looking at her. Something about the moment, the vows, the devotion, the quiet love radiating from her parents, stirred something deep in him. His eyes shined in the soft light, a well of emotion rising too fast for him to blink away. Celia felt the heat of his gaze before she met it. When she finally turned her head, their eyes locked, and Minjae's breath hitched. Not because of the ceremony, but because of her. The softness in her face, the longing she tried to hide, the light reflecting off her skin. His heart squeezed painfully, and then a sudden warmth pressed against his chest. The locket beneath his shirt heated like a small ember awakening. Minjae startled quietly, a breath escaping through his parted lips. Celia noticed. Before fear and confusion could rise in him, he reached out, almost instinctively, and took her hand. Not tightly, not in panic, but like someone grounding himself in the exact place where he wanted to be. Celia's eyes widened, but she didn't pull away. The warmth pulsed again, softer this time, traveling from his chest to his fingertips, then into her palm. Hanrei's voice continued, guiding Rosalie and Thomas through each line of the chant. The air felt heavier now, charged, alive. Celia could feel Minjae's thumb move in small circles on the back of her hand, soothing himself more than her. He continued to mouth the words into the air. Her heartbeat stuttered. She was overwhelmed by the emotions radiating from him. Hanrei raised her hand for the final line. Our line will continue with passion and love. Thomas and Rosalie echoed the words in unison. Minjae turned fully towards Celia, eyes trembling with something close to devotion, really. He mouthed the words, slowly, carefully, with meaning. Celia's breath caught in her throat. For one suspended moment, everything inside her broke loose. The fear, the longing, the gratitude, the ache of knowing he cared for her more deeply than she ever let herself believe. Her lips parted on their own, and before she could stop herself, she mouthed the final sentence too. Just the last one, barely a whisper of movement, barely a breath, but it was enough. A soft rush of heat surged from her locket, answering his. Minjae exhaled shakily. His grip tightened just a little, as if he felt it too. Across the room, Hanrei lifted her head. Her eyes widened, not from fear, but with awe. Something had clicked, something subtle, something rare. A small bond, unplanned, unspoken, born purely of the heart. Hanrei pressed her lips together to keep them from trembling. A small spark of triumph warmed her chest. Selected, that's what it felt like. The magic had recognized them, and Celia, without meaning to, without permission, had let herself respond. As the 3 candles blew out and reignited on their own, Hanrei wondered if this small spark would be enough to keep the flame from dying when the storm finally came. You've just finished Chapter 4, and if you like this story, please like and subscribe and stay with us. Chapter 5, The Countdown, is up next. See you there.